In this video, we will explain what the Avalanche network is, what distinguishes it from other crypto applications. You'll discover the mysteries of the AVAX token in the conclusion, including why the prices jumped up from $16 to $55 in just 2 weeks. But without further ado, let's get started. To comprehend the Avalanche network, we must first learn about its proprietary consensus mechanism and its economics. First and foremost, you should be aware that the practical Byzantine fault was the consensus model that people utilized for a long time. This thing took off, and it was basically a computer science algorithm that helped a variety of things come together and come to a decision based on the data they had. Then in 2009 came the birth of Bitcoin, which marked the beginning of the Nakamoto age of consensus. The proof-of-work mechanism was invented and provided by Nakamoto. Avalanche established its own consensus model network, Avalanche, in 2020. Because this is a hard topic, I'll try to give you a high-level overview without offending any of their engineers. While the network largely follows proof of stake, it does have a few notable variances. To begin with, the Avalanche model employs subsampled voting. This implies that a huge number of people volunteer to be part of the network and are requested to verify items at random. In small random subsets of validators, they are asked if they believe the transaction should be approved or refused in their own words. After it is initially deemed to be genuine, network chatter occurs, in which participants send information back and forth, allowing them to continue to confirm or deny the transactions. One of the advantages of this is that unlike proof-of-work and proof-of-stake processes, no matter how many models or individuals are in the system, consensus will be obtained within a certain time limit. The consensus architecture is significantly more difficult to attack than Bitcoin, which requires 51% of all computers to attack the network, or Ethereum 2.0, which requires 51% of all stakeholders to attack the network. To launch an Avalanche assault, you need to have control of up to 80% of the network. But first, let's get to the crucial things. The model has a finality clock of less than 3 seconds and can handle up to 4,500 transactions per second per subnet. We'll go over subnetting in more detail later. You only need to know for now that each subnet can handle up to 4,500 transactions per second, which means that if you have 1,000 subnets, you can accomplish a lot of transactions. Compare this to Bitcoin, which has 7 transactions per second and a 1-hour finality time, or even Ethereum, which has 15 transactions per second with a 10-minute finality time. So now that I've outlined how the Avalanche consensus model works, let's get into the meat of the matter, which is where the Avalanche network infrastructure excels. First and foremost, Avalanche has only one major network. 3 blockchains are embedded within the network. Avalanche is made up of at least 3 blockchains, but we'll get into that in a minute. As a result, the network's first blockchain is known as the X chain. This section is dedicated to the creation, administration, and exchange of tokens on the network. In technical terms, the engineers would tell us that this is built on a DAG, which is a different type of consensus model than a blockchain, but that is outside the scope of this video. The seed chain is the next item on the list. The seed chain is dedicated to smart contracts alone. It is an identical replica of the Ethereum virtual machine, so you can copy and paste it to start utilizing Ethereum dApps on the Avalanche network right now. They did a great job with this, allowing developers to easily migrate their projects. The chain also employs a technique known as the Snowman protocol, which I'll explain in a moment. So there's the X chain for transactions and the C chain for smart contracts, and then the P chain or platform chain after that. The P chain is solely responsible for subnet management. It also oversees the staking process and all validator nodes. This takes us to a very large and critical question. What are subnets? Well, in the Avalanche ecosystem, each subnet is a new network. The system can be scaled in a variety of ways. Each subnet, like the main Avalanche network, can contain many blockchains. Second, each subnet's blockchain can have its own consensus model. If you're making one, according to what I've heard, you may choose between proof of work and proof of stake, depending on your needs. Aside from that, each blockchain can have its own virtual machine, or VM. The Ethereum virtual machine may be copied in the same way as the primary chain was. Another feature of these subnets that I didn't realize at first is that they may either be permissionless or permissioned. As a result, they can either be public or private blockchains. You might be getting a better idea of what this is all about now. You may simply add a subnet to Avalanche's ecosystem if you are a government that wants the full capability of a blockchain without having to build the foundation. Perhaps you're a government, a corporation, an organization, or some other protocol that needs to utilize these really strong capabilities but doesn't want to invest in anything new. In Avalanche, you can even customize the rules for each blockchain in your network. It may be made to comply with a variety of different geographic or political criteria. For example, you may mandate that every validator in your network have a license, or that they complete specific tax forms. Avalanches are designed to be able to make and follow such rules. Last but not least, by validating your local subnet, you are also contributing to the whole network's validation via the major 3 chains. But let's get into something a little bit more enjoyable now, because we're moving on from the infrastructure and into the specifics of the network. So the main primary network employs the Avalanche consensus model, but AVA Labs invented an even more powerful consensus model, dubbed the Snowman Protocol. And to help you comprehend it, let's go through the differences between the Snowman Protocol and the generalized Avalanche Protocol. It is, nevertheless, quite effective. As a result, the Snowman Protocol is a linearized variant of Avalanche that is tailored to the Ethereum virtual machine's requirements. The Snowman Protocol has been designed with smart contracts and fast throughput in mind. Avalanche, on the other hand, is a more broad use case that can use a DAG structure, which is also found on the X chain. To summarize, there is a lot of technical terminology, but all you need to know is that the Avalanche engineers are really clever and optimize things as best as they can for the scenarios they deem fit. Next, let's look at the tokenomics of the AVAX currency, which runs the network, before making any price forecast or providing you with some really valuable information. First and foremost, there is a 720 million coin limit. As a result, there is instantly a deflationary asset. Second, AVAX tokens may be used to control the platform, which means that the more coins you own and stake, the more voting rights you have and the more decisions you get to make about the network's future. But here's the bad news. When Ava Labs first began, they pre-sold 127 million coins, and many of those coins remain locked for a period of time. As a result, many investors who purchased the currency at 50 cents may wish to lock in the part of the 100x profits and sell as soon as possible. This is bad news for investors, but the good news is that they're not selling all of these coins at the same time. It is also worth mentioning that the team and the foundation were granted around 20% of the total currency. And finally, we come to the good news about AVAX and why its price has recently skyrocketed. In order to encourage individuals to test out their networks, the Avalanche Foundation has established a $180 million reward campaign. As a sort of advertisement, this implies that they are basically giving away $180 million for free. This occurs frequently in the DeFi world, and it's not a ruse. As a result of the incentive scheme, Curve, Finance, and AAVE are expected to join the network as a result. On networks like Ethereum and Polygon, Curve and AAVE are valued at tens of billions of dollars. Getting them to join the AVA network was a brilliant move by the team. AVAX prices jumped up from $15 to $55 in a matter of weeks when it was first released. Hungry investors began to use the AVAX bridge to transfer their funds. But as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. Please share your opinions on the video by liking, subscribing, and commenting.